They are a cultural phenomenon these days. Vampires, children of the night, the undead. This week there's a blockbuster new movie out, New Moon, which set records for the best opening day in movie history. But John Quinones is about to introduce you to some people who say that vampires are very much alive and well. And how do they know? Because they say they are vampires.
It's one of the biggest movie premieres in history, New Moon, earning more than $250 million worldwide last weekend, reuniting the Twilight teen heartthrobs Edward and Bella.
Oh, paper cut.
Proving what many have whispered. This is the year of the vampire.
And her suffering, and yours!
Carrying on in the tradition of Interview with a Vampire,
I know what I saw.
today the genre is reborn with sexy dramas like True Blood.
Make a noise and it'll be your last.
And best-selling books. Vampire stories are truly a phenomenon. But as it turns out, some people claim vampires are not just fiction. You are a vampire.
I am a vampire.
What does that mean?
My method of energy source is through the blood.
Human blood.
Human blood.
He calls himself Balthazar, and he's an elder in a community of people in New Orleans who are convinced that they are real vampires.
6 ounces of blood.
We were struck that the members don't seem to be particularly pale, immortal, or super powerful. Some do have fangs, prosthetic ones they have made to order.
I like to bite.
And, oh yes, certain needs.
The more I get, the more I want.
It just makes me balance, it makes me normal.
They have what they call an energy leak, and so they need to feed. What they feed on depends on what kind of vampire they are. You're a sanguine, which means...
I am a blood drinker. I do get my sustenance by blood.
What other kinds are there?
There's pranic, which is a sexual feeder. There's psychic, which pulls energy from like big crowds, or they will link to one specific person.
Bring what you need, what you really need.
Then you have elementals. They can pull from the living elements. Trees, plants, lightning, fire, oceans. Empathics, they deal with the emotions.
A lot of folks aren't going to believe that this really goes on.
It goes on. You'd be surprised.
I'm not going to worry and waste sleep at night over who might think I'm a little kooky because I think I'm a vampire.
Kira, a registered nurse, works in a hospital in Georgia, prepping heart patients for surgery. Not exactly who you'd expect to meet when you hear the word vampire. Have you ever taken a drink of human blood?
I have bitten people and had a very small taste of it, but I don't seek out blood donors to collect blood from and therefore drink.
Kira feeds primarily on psychic energy. She says she needs it to feel healthy.
I try to be very ethical about what I do. I feed predominantly from crowds so as not to cause harm.
To her, being a vampire is not a choice. She's sure it's genetic.
I am what I am, and I have to do what I have to do.
How many vampires are there out there?
If we're talking about the whole world, it probably is in the thousands. In this country, in the hundreds, yes.
It is a worldwide phenomenon.
It is a worldwide phenomenon.
Catherine Ramsland, professor of forensic psychology at DeSales University and author of The Science of Vampires, has spent years studying the vampire subculture.
Some people are misfits. Some people are just very creative people who don't feel like they fit in normal society. Some people look at the vampire as a very empowering figure and they want to identify with that.
Underground clubs, like this one in New York, are places where people who consider themselves vampires meet. Who are these people?
I met people who were in professions like attorneys, stockbrokers, jewelers, fashion models. They're all over the place.
This self-proclaimed vampire didn't want to appear on camera. When you hear what he does for a living, you'll understand why.
I'm a detective, police detective.
A police detective?
Yes. I work in robbery homicides, my division.
Meet Stefan, by far the most surprising vampire we found.
I'm a lifestyle vampire. I like the look. I like the archetype of what the vampire is, the power, the sexuality of what that represents.
You want to shed light on it, and here you are sitting in darkness.
Because I like having a job. I would probably be ostracized for this. And that's where I think it's terrible. If I'm a good person, if I am a good officer of the law, judge me for that.
Coming out of the coffin, as some vampires call it, can be a tricky process.
My family and I have a don't ask, don't tell policy. They don't really want to know, and I'm okay with that.
Sylvaire, a freelance writer and mother of two who lives on a quiet street in Kansas City, doesn't really discuss her vampire tendencies with her parents or her young sons. But she's not exactly keeping it a secret either.
I've got my sunglasses, I've got my umbrella, I've got sunblock, because light for me is a big deal. Especially when we need to feed, we get more photosensitive.
Like Kira, Sylvaire says she's a psychic vampire. Her donor is her husband, and she shows us what, for her, is a typical feeding.
Because I feed on creative energy, I wait until he's so focused on his art that touching him is not much of a disturbance. The more physical contact I can have with him, the easier it is to draw his energy. This is a meal. This is food. It's not sexual necessarily, but it will often lead to something of a sexual nature just because we do have such an intimate bond between us.
Back in New Orleans, Jezebel, who like Balthasar is an elder in the community, agrees to demonstrate how she feeds off psychic energy. I volunteer to be the donor.
As long as I have eye contact, it's open game pretty much.
You're literally taking energy from it.
You're very vigorous. It's almost like a chocolate.
We hold hands for just a few minutes. So this was, how would you describe it?
It was vigorous at first, very powerful, but very gentle towards the end.
And chocolatey?
Yeah. You're like a chocolate.
Kind of a cocoa kind of thing.